Okay, y'all. So as someone that has written a few dozen resumes at this point over the last 6 years as a career coach and a resume writer, today I'm going to walk you through my exact strategy that I have used on my clients that have helped them land six-figure paying roles, help them transition into new career paths. I've helped people transition into new graduate programs and internships, transition out of the military into civilian roles that are high paying, all the things. If I don't know how to do anything else, y'all, I know how to write a resume. And so I'm going to walk y'all through kind of the strategy that I've perfected over the last 6 years that have helped my clients land high paying roles, again helping them use that resume to get them in the door. And so this is going to be part 2 of my career series. Now if you're like, I don't even know what kind of role I want to transition into 2025, I highly encourage you to go back and watch part 1 where I show you how to create your career strategy, how to research roles and industries that you could qualify for based off of your experience. So again, if you haven't watched the first part, go back and watch that, then come back here. This video is going to be dedicated for those that know what type of roles and industries they want to segue into. You just don't know how to tailor your resume or how to tailor your experience to fit into those roles. And so I'm going to walk through like the basics that you should have within your resume. And then I had a couple of you send me resumes from Instagram and TikTok, so make sure you're following me there. But I had y'all send me a couple of resumes that I'm actually going to go through live on the video as well, so that you can see like as a writer like what I'm looking for, what recruiters and hiring managers are looking for. And yeah, so make sure you get your pen and paper, get your resume, and let's get started. Okay, so before we get into the resume reviews, let me walk you through the basics of what should be included in your resume. Now, let me preface this so y'all aren't tussling in the comments. This is what works for me and my clients. There are multiple ways to skin a cat. Recruiters, hiring managers, coaches, resume writers, everyone has their own style. I'm just sharing what has worked for me and again, my clients over the last 6 years. So the basics of what should be included in your resume. So I always get the question, should it be 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages? I always tell people, keep everything in your resume relevant to the role that you are applying for. So if you have 7 years of experience that's relevant to the role and it extends into 2 pages, that's fine. But if you have 2 pages of experience and some of it's relevant, some of it's not, then there probably is an opportunity to condense it up into 1 page. But generally, if you have at least 5 to 7 years of experience and again, it is relevant to the role, it's okay to extend it out into 2 pages. I've been in the workforce since about 2014, so my resume is about 10 pages just to give you like a frame of reference. And so it's okay to extend. You just want to make sure that everything that you're including is relevant to the role. Typically, when it comes to how many versions of your resume you should have, I always tell my clients you should have a version for every role that you're applying to or every type of role you're applying to. So for example, I'm a healthcare IT project manager. So I have one resume that's just strictly healthcare IT project management, and that's the experience that I'm highlighting. So I'm only talking about the IT projects that I've done over the years. Then I have a more general healthcare project management resume where I talk about my IT projects, but I also talk about the strategic projects, quality and safety, the merger and acquisition projects that I've managed within the healthcare space. So that's going to be a more general healthcare project management resume. Then I also do freelance client work, and typically in my freelance clients, I work with marketing agencies, small businesses, creators, and campaigns and events. And so I have one resume that more so highlights that freelance project management experience. And so for each kind of role or categories of roles that you're applying for, I would recommend having a version of your resume for each one. Again, that way the experience that you're highlighting is specific to that role. If you'll remember in the first video of the career series, I talked about how you should research rather 2 to 3 roles within 3 to 5 industries. So I talked about how you can do market research to see what 3 to 5 industries you could probably segue into, and then the 2 to 3 roles within those industries that you could probably qualify for based off your existing experience. So again, if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch that video. So in using that example, you would probably have about 2 to 3 versions of your resume, if that makes sense. So that's typically how I structure it when it comes to the pages and the versions of resumes that you should have. Now, when it comes to like the basics of what should be included, typically I have my name, with my certifications at the end of my name, and then I have the title of the job that I'm applying for, and I'll put an example here. But that way someone, or a recruiter rather, can see very off rip, like, these are the qualifications that you have just by looking at the top of the page. Then you want to obviously include the city and state, your phone number, your email. I always include my LinkedIn URL too. In the next video of a part of this career series, I'm going to talk about how you can optimize your LinkedIn so that recruiters come to you versus you applying to roles into the abyss and never getting responses back. And so make sure that you subscribe so that I can show you how to optimize your LinkedIn. But yeah, that's generally rule of thumb: name, credentials, title, and then contact information. Then I always tell people to have a professional summary. Your professional summary, for me, my goal is when my recruiters or hiring managers are, going through my resume, I want them to see that I'm qualified for the role within the first half of the page. And so I'm able to do that through my professional summary, where I have about 3 to 5 bullet points, where I have a quantified summary of my experience, again, based off of what the job is looking for. So I'll put an example here of what I have on my resume. But again, you want to talk about, your years of experience, the number of projects that you've worked on, the impact that your work has done. So what's the dollar amount? How many people have been impacted? What satisfaction rates have you acquired, through the years of your experience? And so that's really where you're going to brag on your accomplishments in a quantified way within those first 3 to 5 bullet points. And so in that last bullet point, you can have like an intent to transition. So something like that could be like looking to leverage my project management experience and passion for quality and service into a technical program manager role at Google. That's just an example. But if you are like transitioning into a new industry, I do recommend having that last bullet point in your professional summary to kind of show like how you're leveraging your experience to transition into that specific role, industry, company that you're applying for. So I'll walk through that more in the resume reviews, but after you have your professional summary, I go ahead and get into the work experience. Now, this is going to be a hot take because I know a lot of you and a lot of coaches like to have like an areas of expertise or a core competencies section where they have like a list of like, maybe they usually have the 3 columns where they have like 9 different core competencies that are relevant to the role. And people usually do it because they want to make sure the keywords of the job description are listed in their resume. My hot take, I typically do not include that in my resumes because I want those keywords to be embedded in your work experience so that people can see how you have actually done those keywords in practice versus just listing them out in a section and it doesn't really tell a recruiter or a hiring manager anything. And so that's my hot take. I don't usually include that section at all. If I am working with a client that maybe doesn't have as much work experience, maybe I'll add it in. But the goal really is to make sure that the keywords, the key ask of the job description are embedded in examples throughout your work experience. So when it comes to your work experience section, you want to make sure that it is relevant to the role. I always stress and will stress again, you only need to include what is relevant to what they are asking for. I know we wear multiple hats. We have multiple responsibilities that are probably outside of our job description that we're doing. But when it comes to, again, your resume, you want to make sure that you're only including what's relevant. You also want to make sure that you have quantifiable results. So instead of just listing, day-to-day tasks like answering phones, you want to quantify, the work that you've been doing. So instead of just saying, responsible for answering phones, you can say served as first point of contact for over 60 inquiries on a daily basis to ensure our customers received, a seamless experience or something like that. I'll put an example here that's probably a little more teed up, but you want to make sure that you're quantifying all of your results. So again, they're not just seeing that these were your day-to-day tasks, but they're seeing how you were successful in those tasks through data and metrics. So when it comes to your education and skills section, typically I include that at the bottom. The only instance where I include that at the top is if maybe you are a new grad or maybe you're transitioning into a whole new industry that you have very little to no experience in, but you've done coursework relevant to it, then you can put it at the top, and you can put like the relevant courses that you've taken, the internships, maybe the capstone or case studies that you've done, within your coursework. You can include that within the education section. But again, if you have years of experience, then I would just list your education, your certifications at the bottom. And then when it comes to the skills, typically, again, I only include technical skills, software skills, because again, if you're including like customer service, cross collaboration, the more generic keywords, you want to make sure that that's included in your relevant work experience. But typically I put the skills at the bottom. The only time that I will put the skills at the top, sometimes I'll include it in my professional summary. If, like, for example, I'm applying for a healthcare IT project manager role and they need someone who has experience in Microsoft Project, in Tableau, in this specific analytics software that, they're looking for, then I will put that in the professional summary as just a bullet point so they can see that I had the technical skills they're asking for. But again, if it's more generic, you can just put it at the bottom. Okay, so now that I've walked through the basis of what should be in your resume, now let's hop over to the computer so I can actually walk through a few examples with you. Let's get into these resume reviews. First off, thank you to the two ladies that sent me over their resumes. They did give me permission to share. I blocked out every bit of their personal information so that nobody is showing up to their jobs or their homes. Okay. So, but thank y'all so much. I got these resumes from Instagram. So make sure you're always following me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm trying to get more consistent in my short form, hanging out with y'all in the stories and answering questions real time. So make sure you are following me on both platforms so that I can give y'all, advice on the go. So thank y'all again for sending this over. Again, I blocked out everything. This first resume is going to be for this lady. She is a licensed professional counselor. She's currently working in the hospital setting as a mental health clinician. She wants to segue into strictly working with children. So she wants to be able to be a part of a school system and be able to, develop behavioral health programs to just see, students succeed better in the schools. And so those are the types of roles that she sent me over. And so that's going to be the context that I use as I go through this resume. So I want y'all to put y'all's coaching hats on now that I've given y'all the keys to the basis of everything that should be in your resume. So just scrolling through here, I want you to think about some of the things that I talked about, the formatting, the sections that you should have, and think about what you would tell Ashley to do differently in her resume. So just off rip, I would say, it's good that she has it black and white. I would adjust this formatting for a few reasons. One, it is not consistent throughout the resume. So it looks like she has all caps here, and then there's a different font or format here. So again, you want to make sure that your format is consistent throughout the resume. She has her LPC license number here, but again, for me, if she's applying for a school counselor role, then I will put school counselor under her name. So again, they can very clearly see what she's doing. Current objective and areas of expertise. We talked about this. I would prefer for her to have a dedicated professional summary section that quantifies all of her experience in 3 to 5 bullet points. And then I would also recommend having a dedicated section for the relevant work experience. It does look like she has one for the education and training. But again, just formatting wise, I don't necessarily like the all caps because this is going to be hard to read for a recruiter that's just quickly skimming through your resume. So at this time, let me insert over an example of what this should look like for Ashley. So here's an example of how you can format your professional summary. So in that first bullet point, I want people to know who you are, how long you've been doing it for, and again, what context have you been doing that? So in this example, she's a licensed professional counselor with over 13 years of experience in trauma-informed therapy, behavioral interventions, and counseling across educational, clinical, and community settings. So you can see in that first bullet point, the years of experience she's had and what she's been doing over those 13 years. You can also include success rates. So for example, in that second bullet point, I have proven expertise in developing intervention plans and reducing suspension rates by 35% and increasing student achievement. You could also put maybe by 20% through targeted support strategies. So again, you can see how long she's been doing it, some of her success metrics. And then when I was talking about having a dedicated like intent to transition within the last bullet point of your professional summary, This is an example. So, passionate about leveraging counseling expertise to transition into roles that merge behavioral health with leadership, program development, and systemic change. So, again, the role that she sent me that she wants to apply for, they are looking for someone who has experience in developing behavioral health programs, demonstrated leadership in that area, again, with the goal to bring systemic change within the school system. That's exactly what they're looking for. So that's exactly what I'm going to put in her professional summary. So again, this is a way that you don't have to have those areas of expertise where you're just listing out random keywords. You can embed that into your professional summary and your work experience. So when it comes to her relevant work experience section, again, it looks like she maybe just inserted the job description just so I get it, I can have a sense of what she does. That's what it kind of looks like, just looking top to bottom. But again, you want to make sure that you are not just listing the things that you do, but you're showing your success in those things. So let me insert an example of how she can quantify her experience. So in this example, you can see how I took her senior mental health clinician role and how I quantified it. So, she doesn't just deliver comprehensive mental health services, she's delivering that to over 200 patients monthly, and she has a 40% success rate in the, or 40% improvement rather, in them actually taking the treatments that she is administering. I also insert here again because she is applying to roles that deal with more educators in the school system. I show here how she has collaborated with educators and families within the school system, within the hospitals that have helped, reduce school related stressors and have increased her students' engagement by 25%. And so these are different ways that you can quantify your experience. And again, showing your success in those roles. But again, you want to make sure that it's relevant to the job. So if the job wasn't asking for experience in these things, then I wouldn't include it. So a good rule of thumb when it comes to ways that you can quantify it, honestly, you can take your resume, list out all the things that you've done, and you can have ChatGPT kind of help you with quantifying some of these things. But again, how many people are you working with? What's the impact? How many people are your projects, or how many people is your work impacting? What's the dollar amount? Have you increased sales by a certain percentage? Do your projects that you work on have a specific budget? When it comes to success rates, have you increased productivity, decreased turnaround times? Have you, increased engagement by a specific percentage? Those are different ways that you can quantify your results. So again, this is just an example. I'm not going to go through all of it, but hopefully this can give you an idea of how you can quantify your experience and show the recruiters and the hiring managers not just how you can get that role, but how you already have excelled in similar roles again throughout your work experience in your resume. And then how she has education and training here. Again, I would tweak this formatting, but I do like how she has the very clearly, the levels of education and training that she's had. If she did any like professional development, you could add a section here for any additional professional development workshops, trainings, maybe that she's done outside of these. You could have a dedicated section for that. But again, the main thing here is going to be formatting, quantifying her experience. And yeah, so let's hop into another example where this person is going to be more so transitioning into program project management, because I know that's what a lot of y'all follow me for. Okay, so this example, we're going to call her Casey, and Casey is trying to get into program management. So she has a lot of experience doing public health. Again, I changed all the companies and things for the crazies out there, but um, this she has a lot of experience in public health and within the community, and she's trying to transition into program project management type of roles. And so when it comes to, and I said this before in my first video on the career series, that when it comes to wanting to transition into any role, but especially program and project management, you want to start with the industry that you already have experience in. So if she was my client, I would tell her to find public health program management roles, or community engagement roles within, like, the healthcare setting, because that's where she has the most experience in. But off rip, just kind of going through formatting wise, it actually imported over weird. So her formatting actually on her PDF version is really good, but I do recommend having a doc version, a Microsoft doc version, and a PDF version. Just because sometimes, depending on the system that they import resumes into, sometimes the Microsoft document versions are a little more like search word or keyword friendly. And so I definitely recommend making sure that that the formatting will be consistent on both versions. And so, but in her PDF version, it looks fine. It just looks a little weird here. But I would, of course, make her name bigger, put it in the header. I gave y'all an example with Ashley's resume. And then she would want the title of whatever role she's applying for under her name. And then where she has this motivated problem solver, I'll remove that. I will again have a dedicated professional summary. Let me actually show y'all my exact professional summary that I've used on resumes for myself in the past. So here you can kind of see specific for project managers, you want to be able to show the years of experience, the types of projects that you've managed, the number of projects that you've managed, and again, the things that you have improved, as a result of you being a project manager. So in my example, I have, the 10 years of experience, managed over 60 projects. I've done more since then, but this is just an example of like the project types that I included, how I'm very specific in the types of projects. So implementation and customer success, I've done process improvement, I've coached on project management, again, to display that I'm not just a project manager, I'm actually a leader in the space. And then I have technical skills that, for me is going to be relevant because a lot of the roles that I apply to are more technical in nature. So I want to make sure that the recruiter knows the types of systems that I have worked with. And so that's an example of what you can include in a project management specific professional summary. But going back to Casey's resume, so again, my recommendation to her would be to focus on more public health program manager type of roles. And so here's one thing that I want to note. So when I was talking before about making sure that you only include what's relevant to the role, what's relevant to project manager roles, in her example, I will remove these types of bullet points like arrange travel, HIPAA training. I think she has another bullet point here about managing Outlook inboxes. Like those are good things to know, but it's kind of assumed within your roles. If you're working in healthcare, you have to have HIPAA training. That's just a known. So I would again make sure that you're only including bullet points that show your success in the things that they are asking for in the job description. And then when it comes to titles, this is a hot take, but this is typically what I do for myself and for my clients. The titles of your jobs should reflect the bullet points that you are highlighting, right? So your role, your title may be an operations manager, but within an operations manager role, you're doing operations, you may be doing projects, you may be doing data analytics, you could be doing a bunch of things. And so, of course, what you highlight under that operations manager role is going to be different based off of what you want to highlight based off of the job description, right? So in Casey's example, if she's trying to highlight more of her program management experience, then I would tweak these titles just a little bit to show that she is showcasing her project and program management experience. For example, my first role into like project management, program coordination, my technical title was an administrative coordinator, but I really did mostly like program coordination, project scheduling, things like that. So because that's what I was highlighting, I just tweaked the title to program coordinator. Now, I'm not going to go and make it director of projects, right? Or executive director. That's completely not not anywhere close to my role title, but making those tweaks, within the title to really reflect what you were doing or what you're going to highlight within that role is fine. So I say that because like if she, for example, I know public health is very data analytics heavy, and so it looks like within this public health advisor role, like she did a lot of like providing technical assistance, deliver quality assurance, and she wants to highlight maybe some of her data analytics experience in this role. Then I would put maybe, as public health advisor, you could put in parentheses data analytics. Or you could put data analytics advisor, and you could show the different things that she's doing within the data analytics space. That's just an example. And so again, you want to make sure that your titles reflect the work that you're going to highlight within your resume. But let me give y'all an example of like what your project management bullet points should look like, because what I see in her resume is she's showing a lot of her work experience but not necessarily a lot of like project and program management experience. So this is an example of the project management. This was actually one of my first project manager roles that I had. And so you can see here very clearly how I executed non-process improvement projects across the North American market of over 20,000 employees. So you can see very quickly the scope of the projects that I was managing. You can see my success rate. So I was able to decrease turnaround time for service requests by 20% within 90 days. I led different corrective projects to improve operations. I drove a 98% compliance. So this is where you want to highlight specific for project managers. Again, the number of projects, the impact, the dollar amount, the number of people impacted, the types of projects. And again, as a result of you leading those projects, what were the benefits to the company? And so this is an example of some bullet points that you could include for project manager resumes. Now, going back to Casey's resume, again, I would highlight more of her project management, program management experience and make sure that the titles reflect that. Again, not going too crazy. Do not be deceptive in your titles, but it's okay to tweak it a little bit again if you're only highlighting a specific portion of your role. So those are some things that I would make. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I wouldn't include the 40 hours per week. Again, I would just include the title, the company, the city, and how long you were there. And then moving down, I do want to talk about this other section that she has here in her leadership and career development. So, this is a good section to have if you don't have a lot of work experience within that particular industry. So, let's say that maybe you're trying to transition into project management. You don't have a lot of work experience within your current roles or previous roles in project management, but let's say you do a lot of like work, you're a board member of a nonprofit and you manage all of their projects and events and initiatives. You can include that in a section that says like additional leadership experience or community engagement experience or additional project management experience, however you want to name that section. And you can include the other areas that you have managed projects or done that particular ask of the job description just outside of your formal role. So this is a way that you can include it. For her sake, I would probably have this as additional leadership experience or additional program management experience. If you are going to include it, I like how she has here again, the formatting is a little bit off, but I like how she has a quick like bullet point summary of what she was doing within the role. So if you are going to include these types of things, you do need to include a couple of bullet points that again explain what you were doing as it is relevant to the job description. So if the job description isn't asking for it, do not include it. But if it could help, strengthen your resume, and then, you can include it. Just make sure that you call out again what you've done and the success within those spaces. And then when she has the certified training here, because she's applying for program and project manager roles, I wouldn't necessarily include this because she has enough work experience that shows that she's clearly trained for public health program manager roles. The only thing that I would include here is if she has any project or program management or public health specific certifications, she can include this in like the education and certification section under her bachelor's degree. But I personally would probably take this section out because again, she has so much experience already. And then my general rule of thumb, again, this is not the way, but for memberships, unless you are doing something within that organization that is relevant to the role, I wouldn't include this section at all. Maybe you can include it on your LinkedIn, but as far as the resume, again, you want to focus on your work experience that's relevant to the role. So I personally would remove this out altogether unless she was managing projects within these memberships. Okay. So hopefully this video was helpful and it gives you at least a foundation for how you can structure your resume. I do offer resume writing and coaching services for those of you that are just like, I hear you, but I don't want to do this on my own. Can you just do it for me? Those services are below. I offer a 60-minute coaching option for those that need like comprehensive coaching, developing your career strategy, LinkedIn, resume review, interview prep, salary negotiation, like helping you do all of it from start to finish. There's that 60-minute option. But if you just need me to look over your resume, give you targeted feedback, I do just have like a 30-minute pick my brain resume review that you can book. It's very cheap. And then I also offer dedicated career writing services. Most of my career writing services offer typically two versions of the resume, a cover letter and a LinkedIn rewrite, all encompassed in that one fee, no matter the years of experience that you have. So if you're interested in that, again, all of that will be listed below. In the next video, I'm going to talk about again how to optimize your LinkedIn so that people are coming to you and recruiters are sliding in your messages versus you just applying to roles into the abyss. And so make sure that you come back for that video because I am one that really kind of thinks that your LinkedIn is more important than your resume. I'm also going to continue doing my lifestyle, wellness, faith-based content intertwined within the career series, just so that we have balance. I don't want us to get so caught up on our careers. We are not what we do. It is just a component of our lives. And so I'm still going to be doing my intentional living intertwined within the career series. But thank y'all so much for watching this video, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye, y'all.